Joining me now is Paul Westsells from Western Copper and Gold. Before we get started, tell us your symbol and what exchange are you on?
Sure. Our symbol is WRN. We trade on the TSX and also in the US on the NYSE American.
How's business right at the moment? Because we're at an exciting time when it comes to copper. It looks like we're right at that tipping point.
Yeah, it's been good. I mean, this has been a great year. We started. I mean, I'll be honest. Our share price was beaten up a little bit at the end of last year, like everyone does at the end of the year. But we hit 2019 with a bang and really have seen some good movement. And part of it's gold, which we'll talk about, but another big part of it is copper. And you're seeing copper. I've had a bunch of people this morning come up to me and say, I think copper's going to hit over $3 tomorrow, right, when it opens, and I think it is. And the copper story, I love the copper story. It's a very, very simple story. And there's a couple things on the demand side of things. It's electrification, and it's electric cars. It's the infrastructure associated with it, and a lot of that is located in China. And if you look at the electrification in China, I mean, in China, they are launching a fleet of electric buses the size of the entire bus fleet of London every 6 weeks. That's how fast they are adopting electrification of vehicles in China. So it's absolutely astounding. So that's on the demand side.
Right.
On the supply side, it's very, very simple. I mean, we've had a depressed copper price here now for about 7 years, and in that depressed copper price environment, no one built any new mines.
Yes.
And so what we're seeing happening right now, seeing the copper price go up, and it's now the time for mines such as the one that we're developing to sort of come into fruition.
When you were talking about the electric buses, one of the thoughts that comes to mind is that you can't build electric buses without copper. Like, there is no substitute, is there?
No, and that's what's beautiful about it, right? Because it's not going to be replaced by anything else. You're not even, batteries. I mean, there's different battery technologies and that are being developed, but copper is the foundation. Your electric motors are filled with copper. You look at an electric car, it has 4 times as much copper as a regular car, and that's not including all the infrastructure, the charging infrastructure, all the electrification of that, the new grids that are being built around this electrification movement. So, certainly there's some, I guess, frothier metals around electrification, but copper is the safe bet. Copper is the absolute going to be a winner with the electrification movement.
So a couple of little points that I want to expand on that you touched in there. When we take a look at the electric car market right now, globally it's virtually nothing. And even domestically, it's only, 3% or so? So the room for growth there is extraordinary, and it appears to be exponential. Yeah, no, and I think that's true. And what you're seeing, and you're seeing that the projections for electric car growth, and you're right, it's only 3%. Obviously, sky's the limit. And every year they come out and they revise that, and every year they up it. They're not decreasing it. They're not saying, oh, you know what, people are adopting electric cars slower. It's the reverse. They're adopting as fast as they can. I put my money where my mouth is. I bought a Tesla actually at the end of last year. Yes. And I got to tell you, once you own an electric car, you're like, why would I go back? My gas station's in my house. Just plug it in. It's easy. Well, also the transfer of power from the generation from the electric motor to the wheels far exceeds that of a gas engine. Oh, it's a lot of fun. Yeah. So if you want that little exactly. The kick and the before you put your foot on the accelerator, you got to tell everyone to put their head back, or else they get whiplash. Are you able to feather it in a little bit? You can feather it in, or is it just go? No, you can definitely feather it in. The other thing that I want to touch on is, like you talked about the charging stations and whatnot. If we want to have the most efficient transfer of electricity from source to end use, nothing matches the conduit, properties of copper. Why is that? I mean, it's the physical nature of copper, and in terms of conductor, it's actually not the best conductor. The best conductor is gold. Gold. Well, but who's going to? I don't think we're going to be replacing all of but copper is a very close second. Yeah. And so that's what we're going to use. I mean, it's a very, very simple sort of equation. And the only other alternative is aluminum.
And I don't know
But there's a 25% loss in transmission, isn't it? In power.
And for those of us that are a little bit older, remember when they used to have aluminum wiring and everyone's house caught on fire? So that's been banned. Yeah, so that's not going to be replacing it anytime soon.
Well, now the other thing that we take a look at is there's no denying that with the ongoing improvement in quality of life and the industrialization of China and India, the demand for power, electricity is going to continue to grow.
Yeah.
So,
I mean,
it's like, why is copper languishing where it is when there is going to be this pent-up demand that is going to take off?
And the thing is it's languishing, but it's not really, because you look at the copper price, and in 2018, copper started to go up. And it was going up, and it was about $3.20. Then last year, Trump came in with his tariffs on China, and then it pulled back. But now we're starting to see it come up again, even without a lot of news around the tariffs, because I mean the fundamentals of it are just so strong. And to continue the talking about copper, I mean it's part of it. It's a very, very important part of the green economy. You look at the green economy, and it's producing green electricity, using the cars in the back end, and electrifying everything in between. And that's the way it's going to happen. And again, I mean, your sure bet is copper in terms of that. So,
well, you
it's
touch
green
on
metal.
Well, you touch on the green economy.
Yeah.
Also, if we're generating power through solar panels and through wind, you still have to transmit that power.
Absolutely.
And nothing better than copper.
Nothing better than copper on that. Yeah.
And so that and the requirement there is extraordinary.
Oh, I know, and it's and I mean I can't remember the exact statistics, but you look at these wind turbines, and an astounding amount of copper with that, because again, it's just basically it's a motor in reverse, a generator, right? So these big windings and all that, tons of copper in those as well. So, as we move green, as we move to electrification, as we move to the electric car situation, it's all copper. And you know what? With us at Casino, 10 billion pounds.
10 billion pounds.
10 billion pounds of copper.
Nice segue. Let's talk a little bit about Casino.
Sure.
Where is it? Where are we at? Where are we going?
Okay. Yeah, so I mean, the Casino project that we've been developing for a little over a decade now, located up in the Yukon. Great location. I mean, the Yukon, very mining friendly. Obviously, we're in Canada, which has got a great history of mine building, and we're sort of in that Western Canada area where there's a fairly established sort of big copper mines. I mean, you've got Highland Valley Copper that Teck's running, you've got Gibraltar with Taseko and a couple others, and so we're sort of in that Western...
It's a rich area.
It's a rich area and well established in terms of copper. And, we've been developing it for about 10 years. We did a feasibility study back in 2013. We're currently sort of midway through permitting. And so that's where we are right now. Where are we going? This year, really the key things that we're going to look to do on this, there's a little more drilling. There's actually it's already a billion ton reserve, but there's actually more there. So we're gonna drill that out. And it's important for the permitting that we sort of have that well established. So we're going to drill that out. And also look to, probably after that, and this will probably drag into 2020, update that feasibility study.
So what are your plans as a company?
So do that. So once that's done, I mean, this has always been an asset that we've said, it's a $2.5 billion capital cost project. It's a bit too big for a junior mining company such as ours to do alone. So we've always said that, when the time is right, when the deal is right, we'll look to partner on that. And, with the price of copper, came a lot of people knocking on the doors, and so we're just
growing interest in you all of a sudden.
There's certainly growing interest, and that's part of why we're drilling this out and updating the feasibility study as well, is that it brings everything up to date, has a good establishment of what the project exactly looks like. A, to go through permitting, B, to bring in a partner for the project.
Have a quick sip, and then I'm going to talk to you about gold. Okay?
All right,
because
sure, sounds good.
You are Western Copper and gold. So let's also talk about gold.
Absolutely. Where do you want to start?
I'm going to let you start.
Okay.
You talked about gold as being that other perfect conduit for electricity.
Yes.
That's not where we're going with gold, of course.
Yeah.
but what are your gold reserves and prospects?
Sure. So and that's a very good segue, because we are Western Copper and Gold, and the reason that we're called Western Copper and Gold, copper is about half of the projected revenue from our mine, and gold is close to 40% of the projected revenue. So it's a big part of what we're talking about. Overall, the overall resource is 18 million ounces of gold. About half of that is in reserves, and with this drilling that we're talking about, we'll add more than that. So right now we got 9 million ounces of reserves. After the drilling, we'll be over 10. And that's very, very important, because as we've seen these big mergers, and we're obviously the Barrick Randgold and the Newmont Gold Corp, these companies need big gold deposits. And if you look at our overall resource and you put it on a list of junior mining companies, we come up as number 6 in that list. And I'm not going to go through the ones in front of us, but you can take a look at them, and they're in bad locations. They've got permitting challenges. This is with the Casino deposit. It's a big gold asset, with a lot of copper, clear permitting in front of it. Very good economics. I mean, at today's commodity prices, we've got, I think, a 24% IRR on the project.
Right, and you're in a stable jurisdiction. It's mining friendly and good infrastructure.
Absolutely. And just a little bit on the infrastructure. I mean, a year and a half ago now, our esteemed Prime Minister Trudeau, maybe not so esteemed today, but came
different topic.
Came to the Yukon, announced an infrastructure investment, 3 road projects, and one of those road projects is the road to the Casino mine.
So, with every potential investment, investors are saying, okay, well, tell me about the team. Who am I investing in? The property is one thing, but who is this team, and why should I believe in them?
Yeah, and so if you look at our team, I mean, we're led by our chairman, Dale Corman, and Dale has been in the industry for a long time, and his big key deal was selling the Peñasquito asset with Western Silver to Glamis, which was then taken over by Goldcorp. And if you look at Goldcorp right now, the Peñasquito asset is actually the largest revenue generator within their stable, central to the company. And if you look at Peñasquito, it was a large, lower grade, in that case, lead, zinc, silver, gold mine that you sold to a gold company. And we're sort of doing the same thing here again. And so Dale's got that track record. Our engineering team is the same engineering team that was involved with Peñasquito. And so I mean, that's that team that sort of is moved over to this big copper gold asset in the Yukon.
We're having this conversation so that people who are looking at you as a potential investment are saying, okay, why should I put my money there? What's your pitch to them right at the moment? Because everything you're telling me, I go, I like it. What is your pitch to somebody to say, this is a good, solid investment? So long as you have patience, of course.
I mean, if you look at the way our stock trades on copper. And we started off this conversation talking a lot about copper, and I'm a big copper bull. Very simple economics are on copper. And so if you like copper, buy our shares, because as the copper, I think I don't know if it's going to break out on Monday, but we're going to break through $3 and hit $3.50. As that happens, our share price goes up. I mean, and you can look at the history of our share price. So it's a good, and we have very good leverage to that copper price. So that's the simple reason to buy our shares. And the bonus on our shares is of course, if we bring in a partner, if we sell the company, then you're going to see a massive re-rating on that. And you look at the assets out there, you look at the copper space, there's not a lot of assets in the copper space. We happen to have a very, very nice asset in a good jurisdiction. And in the big gold deposit space, that's a small area.
Right.
And you know what, when I saw these big gold mergers, I was like, this is great for our company, because these companies need big gold assets, and guess what? That's what we have.
Well, it sounds like a pretty exciting opportunity and time for you. We will be watching, of course, and hopefully you'll come back and give us updates in the future.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.